Today I want to take a look at PowerShell PnP for end users and how to configure site permissions. So there might be times when you need to grant access to a site in bulk. You're using a CSV spreadsheet as input, and it's kind of tedious to come in here and grant access to each person one at a time. There are a few features, of course, in the GUI where we can come into the gear in the top right, and we can check out things like the site permissions and see that we have owners, members, and visitors. But what if you wanted to grant access to the site using automation? Well, you don't have to be an admin. You don't have to have special tenant SharePoint admin rights. Anyone that has the ability to modify the permissions of a site can use PowerShell PnP to connect to the site and to grant access. Here we have a PowerShell file with a URL to the site that we're going to be working with, and I'm going to go ahead and add a CSV with the permissions and the user login that we would like to be granting access. So we've got a couple of accounts. We're going to set up 3 of them, test 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to put in the level of access. And here what we'll do is full control. Yes, we'll do contribute. And we will do read. So that's 3 rows in a CSV, pretty well designed. Headings are login and access. The row entries are test 1, 2, 3 with full control, contribute, and read. So we have 3 users, 3 levels of access. From the PowerShell perspective, we want to connect to the site using WebLogin. So let's go ahead and execute that. Use WebLogin. There we go. And we'll do my favorite command, Get-PnPWeb. That makes sure that we have a connection. And then what we're going to do is read the CSV. And for that, we're going to copy paste the name. And that'll bring in our CSV. And here we're going to loop each row in CSV and grant access to site. So for each row, Set-PnP site identity user, AddRole, and here's the key one, adding the role. So what role, what level of access do they have? I guess for consistent terminology, we're going to take this and the site we already have, user and role, that's fine. We can go ahead and rename. We'll match the suggestions, user column and role column, pretty easy to modify. There we go, CSV is modified, schema is matching. Pretty simple script. We'll go ahead and give it a run. So let's see. Here we're going to get a login prompt. Use WebLogin, campaign, SPJeff service. We're going to do this as Connect-PNPOnline. There we go. And let's do this one step at a time. We'll make sure we get our connection first, and then we'll kind of work it forward from that point. Good. Good. We know we have a connection because we can see the site GUID number and the URL being echoed back from the Get-PnPWeb command. It's a really good way to verify we have a connection. Another way to verify is Get-PnPList, and that'll enumerate all the different lists that are on the site. So Get-PnPWeb, Get-PnPList, these are really good commands to make sure you have a connection. Because if they're showing you some valid data, then you're in a really good spot. You know that you've got a connection, something you can work with. Next, we're going to read the CSV, and we can highlight that, press F8. So when you highlight code in PowerShell and press F8, it just executes the highlighted part. So this is a good way to make sure we have our commands loaded. That looks good. It's doing the looping. And then here we can go ahead and execute the final part. Now, reading the help on line 16 for the Set-PnPWebPermission command, we can see a few different examples. You really need 2 key inputs, the user and the role. AddRole is what's going to grant them the access. This does support using groups as well if you wanted to do that. It doesn't have to be user. It can be user or group. So we have the user group, we have the role, and you can even do multiple roles if needed. So the command's pretty flexible. If you needed to grant multiples, that is supported. So with that in place, we'll go ahead and execute. And here we can highlight the code with F8 to execute. We see the permission grants coming through. We come back over to our site's homepage. We'll go to the gear in the top right. We'll come into site permissions, and we want advanced. The reason we open up advanced is for a full screen view that gives us the ability to see all of the permission levels. And here we can see our 2 new entries successfully appearing. And we even have the check permissions button for verification. So with check permissions button, we can pick up test 2. We can see that it was granted directly, that it has contribute level access, and yes, that our permissions were granted successfully. The permission level that we're seeing on the right-hand side, this is the role from the CSV. And the check permissions is a really good way of doing QA or validation just to kind of verify that the grant is working successfully. So that's how you can grant permissions to your SharePoint site using PowerShell PnP as an end user. Thanks for watching.